So hello and welcome to the Dharma Life podcast. I'm your host, Aloise.life, and every week we bring you guests who help you build your 5D life in alignment with your soul. And this week I am incredibly happy to introduce you to a very, very, very dear friend of mine, absolutely instrumental as a mentor in my life, and somebody whose work has totally transformed how I saw myself and how I operated in the world and my business. And I'm going to get all soppy now. So I'm going to introduce you to this incredible man, Nicholas Haines. Welcome to our podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. And that lovely introduction. And the word mentor is strange because I'm thinking a bit more like you're my sister.
A bit like what?
A bit more like my sister.
Well, I'm your sister.
Well, a very young sister, but a very young sister in a very old soul, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, we've been lucky enough to know each other since 2012 now.
Yeah.
And we just clicked, didn't we, when we first met? And I meant every word I said, Nick. You're so for the audience listening, Nick is an expert in Chinese medicine, and not only that, he has created something called the Vitality Test, which enables you to understand your energy type from a Chinese medicine background. And I meant every word I said, Nick. It's so liberating for me to understand my energy type and how it meant that I need to be loved, and how it meant that, how I show up in the world. So could you maybe just share with our audience a little bit more about your work? Because it is absolutely incredible.
Of course. Yeah. I have various different aspects to my work. So my background, as you say, was traditional Chinese medicine. I practiced for 35 years. I calculated recently I did over 50,000 one-on-one consultations, which was a lot.
That's a lot.
And then I took 50,000. That's a lot.
Wow.
I then took that body of knowledge and I moved it into, I think I was equivalent of a really good guitar player playing in my bedroom. And I decided actually to go out on stage a bit more and just put it out there in the world. So we set up, about the time I met you, 5 Institute. And the 5 Institute takes that body of understanding around Chinese philosophy, energetics, and puts it out there in the world. And the way I think of it is we're about internal and external cultures. How do you live with yourself and how do we live together? That's the kind of primary thing that we do at the 5 Institute. My purpose has always been that I want everybody in the world to have someone that's there for them. So I did that in the playground and I did that. And for me, the best way to make sure that everybody in the world has someone that's there for them is through the work we do at the 5 Institute, but also through kindness. How do we create kind cultures? How do we create kind organizations? How do we learn to live with ourselves and learn to live together?
Which is so poignant, what we're going through.
Yeah. And we've talked about this before. We were born in this time because we were chose to be born into this time. And I think one of my roles is how do you live with yourself and how do we live together to do the big stuff that we need to do.
And your work, and obviously everything you do with the 5 Institute, and I know the reason I wanted to get you on the show, particularly around this time of year, is obviously you always do these incredible forecasts for the energy of the upcoming year. And obviously we've gone from 2020 into 2021. And I always find listening to almost like the theme of the year is so empowering and encouraging and inspiring for me. So I'd love for you maybe just to share a little bit about obviously the year that we're going into with our audience, because obviously we're still in the metal cycle and we're going now into the metal ox. But I would love for you to just sort of describe what that actually means for our listeners.
Okay. So if you're new to this work, there's really simple principles. So each year is related to one of 12 animals, and each animal has a certain characteristic to it. And the year is also then related to one of the 5 elements, one of the 5 energies. So basically each year occurs once every 60 years. So the last time we were in a metal ox year was 1961. And each year with its energy will have a certain vibration, a certain energy to it, a certain style. It's like an undercurrent of a flow. However, although the year has a flow and an energy to it, the context, and I think this is really important within our conversation, the context in which the year sits is different. So we're different from 1961. They came out of two world wars. There was a different context. They weren't, at the moment, which we can explore, we've got three major cycles of change happening, which has not gone on for tens of thousands of years, changing at the same time. So we've got some really big stuff happening, but the essence of the energy of the year is the same. The context is just different. So the energy of this year has a certain vibration, a certain flow to it, which you can, and then that will resonate with our energy, our vibration, our flow, our numerology, our east and our west stars, the essence of who we are. So there'll be that kind of interaction between the year, the context, and our energy. And then the as well as the year having a certain energy, the block of 12 years has a certain energy to it. And that really matters as well. So we've got this, it's like a 4D, 5D game of chess with all these different energies.
Builds on top of each other.
Yeah, which can kind of start to seem, okay, this is a bit confusing. So I've got this energy of this year with an element, within a context, within a block of time, and then it's mixing with my east, my west stars, my numerology, the essence of who I am. And that gets to be really complicated unless you look at it from your vitality test point of view. You say, okay, well, how is it interacting with my energy based on the vitality test? Because your vitality test, in a way, is an amalgam of your east and your west stars and your numerology, the essence, your parental influence. And most importantly, your vitality test is indicating what it is that you're here to do on the earth and the challenges you'll have around that. So I like to look at these years and say, okay, well, us as individuals and society, how is this year interacting with us, and what are the challenges, what are the lessons, what are the confusions? And so in terms of the energy, the animal we're in, we've just left rat and we've just arrived in ox. That has certain characteristics. And we are in a metal, second of metal energy years. The metal energy has certain characteristics. And we're also in a metal energy block of time. And that has certain characteristics. So what we could do is we could just look at metal energy and say, okay, we're in a year and a block of time, what's that going to tell us? And then we can say, okay, well, what's the ox going to tell us? Would that be useful? This making sense?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
So we kind of break that down. So metal energy, every energy is related to a particular season, and metal energy is related to fall, autumn. There's a number of qualities there. First of all, things disconnect, they end. So metal energy has a kind of a question or an observation. It says, okay, what's missing? What isn't there? Something feels like it's missing. Something feels like it's not there. Leaves disconnect. There can be a sense of loss, of isolation, of disconnection. So I said at the beginning of 2020, was talking about it in December 1919. I said, I don't know how it will happen, but there will be a sudden surge of disconnection, of loss of things, or a sense of isolation, and a letting go. And what is it that we will let go? Well, in 1960, they let go of the grief from two world wars. That was an enormous shift. Suddenly you had people suddenly saying, well, let's go to the moon, let's travel in space, let's ride around on scooters, let's drive clothes, let's do peace and love. And they let go of that tremendous grief from two world wars. And there was conflict because one generation was saying, but you younger kids running around on your scooters, being all happy and jolly and laughing, don't you know people died in two world wars for you? don't you take things seriously anymore? What are you? And there was this enormous divide between society, between a traditional view that was holding on to the grief and a new view of people that were saying, you know what, we're in the 60s now. This is not the 50s or the 40s. It's we're a new generation, and we can.
Which is what we've got now, basically.
Which is kind of it's two worlds. So we've got that. We've got so we saw that happening to a certain extent as that sudden shift into that metal energy block of time that we saw it last year, and in the 1960s they'd come out, like I said, they'd come out of these two world wars. So their big thing was peace and love. We've come out of watching Australia on fire, great chunks of America on fire with climate. So our stuff is climate. We've got lots of existential stuff going on around climate. We saw in the 1960s, there was metal energy is also about us saying, what is it that we value? What's important to us? And what are we going to let go of?
Well, so I also, when you talk about letting go, I feel like there's a massive collective letting go happening with this kind of dark night of the soul. You know, it's kind of happening on a global scale at the moment.
Yeah.
So it's like we're being forced to let go. If you think about what happened, you know, like you were saying about isolation, you know, a lot of people have had gone in, and their businesses they're going to have to let go of, or a lot of the 3D stuff they've been holding on to is naturally coming to the surface for them to let go of.
Yeah. And also within that letting go, there is no better year than last year and this year to let go of the limiting beliefs that you had, your stories that you tell yourself, the things that say, I can't do this because of that. So we get a chance to let go of so much of the things that were not serving us or not allowing us to be that full expression of ourselves, fulfill your purpose or do whatever it is. So letting go is on many, many levels. And the same with that metal energy, it is about an assessment of value. So what is it that you value and what is it that you don't value? What are you going to let go of? What are you going to decide to keep? And we saw within that kind of COVID world, we were really asked, people let go of things and ways of doing things that never would have seemed possible before, and suddenly we're doing things in a completely different way. And some of those, and then we experienced it. I lost many people died in the last 2 years. It's kind of was brutal on that. And that gets you to kind of explore letting go of mortality and all stuff. So there's lots of layers in which.
Well, I suppose you can apply it to anything, can't you? Really?
Yeah. We're kind of asked to. So we're asked to explore that, and.
So, as a general theme for our listeners, then listening to this, you know, it's a good thing for them to examine what they want to be holding on to and what they want to be letting go of. And, you know, letting go of anything holding you back, this would be the prime time, like you said, negative beliefs, belief systems, stepping into that person that you want to be. This would be a good kind of thing to look at over this period.
And one of the things around that I think is really important to kind of let go of, that the block of time that we've just come out of with an earth energy block of time, and that's about understanding, making sense, chewing things over, learning, education. It's also about community, grounded, settle. So we did a lot of work in the last 12-year block of time about understanding ourselves, making sense, chewing things over, discussing. But we didn't actually do a lot of letting go. So one of the traps that we can have at the moment, you say, well, I've tried to let go of all these limiting beliefs. I've tried to do all this work. I've spent the last 10 years trying to deal with this stuff, and I go around in circles. I can't let go. I've already tried. You've never tried to do it in a metal energy year or a metal energy block of time. So don't think just because you couldn't do it before that you can't do it now. And that's a trap. People say, oh no, I can't, I don't want to, I've also tried so much. Try it now. Try it again and try it now.
Now's the time to really.
Now is the time to do it. The other thing that is in a way a kind of metal energy trap that kind of gets us, and a brilliance too, is that metal energy has something going on around perfection, about things being done really well and quality, and as well as finishing things. So there can be a trap of, as we're having this shifting and letting go or doing things, you think, oh yeah, but it's or we're having this, there's some, which we can look at, there's some very new energy coming in. And as we're seeing the new energy coming in its forming state, the metal energy can trap us and think, oh, that's no good, it's not perfect. It's not perfect. I can't let go because I can't do it completely. It's not perfect.
And I do that with my programs all the time. I'm like, oh, should I redo that? Should I redo that? It's not perfect.
Yes. Yeah. It's not perfect. It's not good enough. Or even a solution to our world's problem. People say, oh, that doesn't work. That's not perfect. So everything within it, there's a danger within this stage as little shoots come up or little things arrive, that they get chopped down because our metal energy, the metal energy that we're vibrating with, says that that's no good. Going to get rid of it. That's a little bit. Yeah. and we see this kind of, and the other thing that comes from that, and this is the work that I do with Runa and the No More Boxes movement. Mm-hmm. This very black and metal energy is a desperate desire for simplicity, and one of the easiest ways to try and attain simplicity is to put saying, this is right, this is wrong, this is black, this is white, this is that. We just put things in boxes to try and get this really simple view of the world, because otherwise it's too complicated. So what happens is something new starts to arrive and we go, it's not perfect. And it also belongs in this camp, and I don't like that. That's communism, that's socialism, that's capitalism, that's this, that's that. And we end up with this very black and white thinking. And then at the same time, we're spotting the imperfection within the model, within the development of it. So I often think it's a bit like you get a puppy and you take it back to the pet shop, or the thing is, this puppy's no good, it keeps pooing everywhere. or you get a baby and you take a baby back to the, actually I think I've got a duff baby, it keeps on pooing and crying all the time, it's not talking, it's not walking, it certainly can't do anything. It's like everything in its early stages is in a state of growth and imperfection, and to look for perfection and to judge it on what you perceive would be its final state gets to be that we see rejections of ideas all the time because it's not perfect.
So the moral of the story then for our listeners is recognize that and kind of get used to sort of being being happy with imperfect perfection. And just, it's more about who it's going to help and serve rather than necessarily getting stuck in the.
So one of the kind of guiding principles that I give for this year is let go of the old and kind of be curious about the new. So we have that kind of duality going on in this year, that we've got a big push for some new stuff coming, and that's to do with 2024 and these big geopolitical, spiritual, and consumerism changes that are happening. But we've got a whole lot of real new stuff coming our way, engaging with metal ox year, and the ox is a very, very traditional, they're very conservative, they're very steady, they're very kind of like old-fashioned, and it's steady in its old way. So we've got this very steady, old-fashioned, plodding long year. It's starting to engage with this really quite revolutionary time, and those two things are meeting in this particular year. So we've got the kind of an old meeting the new in this particular year, with the trap of, well, the new doesn't look very perfect.
Right.
The old kind of, there are challenges around the old, because if we let go of old things, the metal energy then says, yeah, but you're going to miss out. You're going to lose. It's going to be something's going. So we kind of get trapped in this sense of something is missing, or something is being taken from us, or there's a secret, or there is something that is being stolen or taken or hidden, or this or perfect. And so both 2020 and 2021, particularly 2020 with this big surge, gave an enormous sense and a search for what's missing. Something feels missing. I don't know what it is. It just feels like something's missing. And it's being taken from me. It's being stolen. It's being I just know it. I don't know what it is, but something is being hidden. Something is being taken. Something is being stolen. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to start looking for what's hidden, missing, secret, being stolen.
A lot of people have been doing that as well.
And people just did that. And the challenge is that you find something that is missing, but it doesn't satisfy the energetic need to search for what's missing. So you say, oh, I found that layer. So then you find another layer, and then you find another layer, but you're never satisfied. It never reaches a point to which you go, oh, good, I found what's missing. You find it, you have a moment of satisfaction, then you go, nah, must be something else missing.
So how do we combat that then? How do we kind of bring that to our awareness and consciousness? Or just literally kind of hold it and just say, okay, I just stop looking now.
Well, one of the gifts, whether or not we did it before or after, whether or not we did that at the time, or whether we need to revisit it now, is we've just come out of this 12-year block of earth energy. And earth energy was teaching us to create an earthly stability, to create rhythms and routines, to do our meditation, to do our learning, to be grounded, to be stable, to be rooted in our existence, and to. The danger was that we were always going to go tribal, and we did go a bit tribal, but generally it was the ability to be, for us as individuals, to be very grounded and stable. And if you're like that, and you have a deep understanding, and you did the work in this area, you have a deep understanding, what you don't get caught up in is all the drama and the this and the that and the this and the searching. So the work that we should have done in 2012, that last 12-year block of time, should have protected us from the rabbit holes and the stories and the drama and the this and that. But if we spend all our time on social media and on our phones, and we're looking at this, and we spent the last 12 years in a frantic drama-y state, then this meta energy sense of what's missing then just triggers us, and we just back into that loop.
So you kind of, because the way I see the last 12 years or 10 years, it's been preparation actually for what's happening
absolutely
now. And I feel like all the work that I did in that last sort of 10-year period is standing me in good stead now as we're going through this more, what I would say, the 4-year period where the old systems are breaking down, where the new systems are shooting through. But I'm also seeing a lot of people in our communities who maybe haven't necessarily done that so much work, and then I'm noticing them their stuff is coming to the surface for them to look at. It's kind of forcing that issue to come up almost.
Yeah, that is and it isn't true. I think one of the issues is that I think of myself, and you're the same, Aloise. We're both sensitive, searching souls. So we're souls that are searching, and we're sensitive. So even though we did all the work, our sensitivity gets us to pick up higher levels of what's missing and what isn't there. There are lots of people that aren't sensitive, searching souls that don't particularly pick up the energy of the time, and they just kind of plod along. This has been quite an extreme time, so there's been lots of circumstances where most people have been caught with it. But there are many groups of people that really did do the work, and they really did do that stuff, and I really did that stuff. However, I was still got by that energy because I am more sensitive to it, and therefore it gets me. So my grief came back, my unresolved stuff about the death of my sisters, all that. It broke me in that year because I was so sensitive to the metal energy game that's playing on.
So people listening then, who are maybe having that experience, don't get me wrong, I believe everything's divine, everything's divinely timed, and we have to trust that. So, if that stuff is coming up for people at the moment, it sounds like obviously you've had your own bits of stuff that was coming up too. What would you say, like, this is to those people listening?
I think there's three main things. The first one is, just because you're really experiencing and feeling this stuff at the moment, that doesn't mean you didn't do a good job before. You're just a really sensitive, searching soul. The second one is, this is a very, very extreme time. This isn't it just isn't an ordinary time within it. So we're being really asked to step up. It's like you learn to be a really good tightrope walker. And I can walk a tightrope. I can absolutely do it across tall buildings. Okay, well, let's see you do it in a gale. Let's see how you get on in a gale. So we're sensitive, and we're trying to do it in a gale. And then I think the third one, which is a kind of, in a way, the biggest trap for ourselves, it flips back to this perfection that we think, oh God, I should be more perfect. I should get it done. I shouldn't have missed that. I shouldn't have. So I could really beat myself up and say, look, here I am. I've done this work. I've been in this energy field for 40 years now. I know what year is going to come. I know what's going on. And why did it still get me? Because I'm human and I'm sensitive, and it was in a storm, and it kind of got me. And it also got me to actually produce much better content. But don't fall into the trap around perfection, because our souls are forming and growing in the same way. And that is the trap that people say, oh, they didn't do it right. And it also, we can fall back into the trap of black and white thinking. They're enlightened, they're not. They're like this, they're not.
And I think that's the biggest challenge on the planet at the moment, isn't it? It's like we're having, unity consciousness is about us coming together and being happy with our imperfections. And if somebody has a different view, then that's okay. They're still our brother or sister. I think that's the collective lesson that is happening at the moment.
And the other thing, I think, just back to that kind of preparation and how we can go back into it, there's also that big thing around earth energy is connected with our digestive system, and it's connected with our microbiome, and it's connected with the way that we eat and the soil the soil that we exist on. So another way to kind of create that stability to be better in this time is to look at that earth energy. Do you have a good microbiome? Are you looking after bacteria? You're avoiding loads of pesticides that just destroy the microbiome in the soil and destroy the microbiome in you? Are you dealing, because if you're super sensitive, you might want to do that because the grounds are shifting underneath our feet. So you have to have your own.
So basically, what you're saying is there's a few themes, one of which is obviously letting go, being curious about the new, understanding that actually we've got to be okay with imperfect perfection, move forward. And then getting our balance right. So really looking at our core and making sure that we are stable, because obviously everything externally is going through this shift. So it's about kind of centering and focusing ourselves. Is that the steadiness of the ox then?
Yeah, that's so the kind of, in a way, I think the first thing with this year is kind of keep it steady. Just plod, plow, keep it steady, do your stuff. Just don't get caught up in the dramas, this and that, because the flip side of the ox is that they're bulls in a bull ring.
I was going to say, stay in your own lane.
Stay in your own lane. And if someone pokes you or waves a red flag, don't suddenly go, oh, yes, good, and start charging towards the red flag because we will have loads of them. So keep it steady, stay in your own lane, plod along, plow, do your work. Don't start trying to lock horns with everything that comes along, because that's what bulls like to do. They like when they're stressed and they start to want to lock horns and get into every fight. At their very best, oxes plod along and they plow, and and as they plow, they lift stuff out of the soil, and that's for you to look and examine. It's getting rid of things, but they're also aerating, getting the soil ready, preparing, settling, opening things up. And oxes, in their very nature, they do really well together.
They're in pairs, aren't they?
They're pairs. They kind of plod along. They're preparing. So this year is a kind of preparing the ground, plodding, keep stable, keep steady. It is, ox energy has a discipline to it. So there's something going to go on around discipline. We could go, oh my God, discipline. They're telling me what to do. Charge. People are trying to discipline me. No, oxes are about your discipline to keep it steady and stay in your own lane. That's what the discipline is. Don't wander across the field and plow in zigzags. Try and do it in nice straight lines. It's more efficient. It kind of gets things done. And the other end aspect with oxes, like I say, they're very traditional and conservative. So you need to say, okay, well, what traditions am I going to set up for myself? Are my traditions going to be my rituals and rhythms? And you can look upon traditions and you say, well, do we really want to get rid of Christmas and the Tooth Fairy? No. Personally, I quite like some of those. But other traditions, you're thinking, no, I'm happy to let go of those. But I'm also going to introduce traditions that I have that serve the world.
Yes, I like it.
So it's trying to get that balance. So I think the top layer is just keep it steady, plod along, plow. Whatever you're going to prepare the soil for now will be what you will grow later. So just be considerate about that. Release the old, being aware that there could be a sense that you're going to miss out, but there's also a sense that, less is more. It could be really simple. Let's have perhaps a simpler existence. Be curious about the new. Don't try and get perfection. And then
that's quite metal as well, isn't it? The sort of systemization, the streamlining, keep it simple, stupid, almost.
Yeah, absolutely. Just keep it really simple. And there's also an elegance. So if in the last 12 years you think, I meant to join the 5 a.m. club and I didn't do it. I got up at 5:30 and it was all wrong. I couldn't do it. Or anything like that. What you were exposed to in the last 12 years and you learnt about, metal energy is about efficiency. So that 80-20 rule, 20% of the things that you learned or should have done will give you 80% of the results. So don't get caught in, I need to do it all perfectly. No, just pick the things that are going to give you the best results and just be efficient with those. And that's part of the kind of plodding along. And then I think the third within the groupings and the steady thing and then the releasing old and new, I think the third big guiding theme that I think we should really be embracing in this year that I think is really, really important is be kind. Be kind to yourself and be kind to others. Because you could really be unkind to yourself with this perfection and this missing and this and we've been through a really tough year and lots of people got carried away down different rabbit hole. And just be kind to yourself and then also be kind to other people because they've got their stuff going on and they picked up the energy and let's just try and just do that kind of oxy stuff and let's just plod along together and let's see what we can do together to create lay the foundation for the new stuff to arrive, bearing in mind we'll get tripped up by the black and the white and the this and that, but let's just prepare the ground and say, what do we want cultures and what do we want to be? And our view at the 5 Institute and No More Boxes movement is let's just be kind, let's just be open and accepting of
I love all of this because I always say, anyone in our community, I always talk about the fact that everybody's in their own lane. We literally, everybody's on their own journey, doing their own thing, and also important to keep your energy focused on what you're doing rather than everybody else in the external world and external reality. Okay, so key.
And this is a really good year to practice keeping in your own lane.
Right.
Really good year to practice it. Rats, we've just come out of a rat year. Do rats like to, no, they're kind of
they're all over the place.
Scattering all over the place. It's a very scattered, fastest year we've just come out of the fastest year in the 60-year cycle. Fastest.
Oh, that was so fast last year. It was crazy how fast it. So this is a lot slower, actually. That was what you're saying.
It's still they're still the two fastest animals of the 12-year cycle. I think the contrast we had was 2019 was an Earth pig year. Earth is the slowest energy, pig is the slowest animal. We went into the fastest year, metal, and the fastest animal, rat. So we went from the slowest year and block of time to the fastest year and block of time. In the 60-year cycle, there's no year that has a contrast between one year and another. Everything else is quite gentle. So we're not shocked by this year because it still feels we've got to kind of keep things efficient. And
well, that was crazy last year because I listened to your work, and it was almost like every time we weren't in lockdown, it was going 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And then it kind of went to lockdown, and it was like, oh, and I was like, oh, this is weird. And then as soon as it started to come out of lockdown, it went 100 miles an hour again.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
And we saw lots of funny things, didn't we? Kind of people kind of set up, they think, oh, I'm going to learn Italian and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. And then time's running out. I'm not going to be able to learn Italian. And I missed it out. And I missed my opportunity to become fluent in Italian within those 4 weeks we were locked down. I thought I could do all these. And so there was an enormous expectation around our perfection and then a sense that time was running out and we needed to go even faster because definitely feels like time's running out because I can feel it. I can feel something's running out. It must be time. I think I need to run faster here.
And that's just the metal, full stop, isn't it?
Kind of it's a rat and it's metal and a rat
together.
And you put them together, and so we got a bit more of a ploddy year this time. Should we choose to do it, or you could be a bull in the bull run or the bull ring. And you're charging around after one flag. And then it could be a really quite fast year because you're literally charging after one thing after another with a sense that...
And into fights with everybody.
A fight with everyone. And someone is definitely stealing something from me.
Okay, guys. So you heard it here first. This is all about slow and steady wins the race. Stay in your own lane. Look at what you want to release that's old. And remember, you're preparing the ground for the new. Look at your traditions, look at your rituals, look at what you want to keep. Remember, it's about efficiency. Have some discipline and don't be afraid to move forward with perfect imperfection.
Perfect. And be kind. Be kind.
Of course. How did I miss that?
Yeah. Kind of watching out for that black and white stuff, the no more boxes stuff. Don't put anyone in a box.
No boxes. We are one humankind.
We are humankind.
Humankind. We are one kind human. Kind.
We are.
Oh, Nicholas, always a pleasure to talk to you. I could talk to you all day. How do our lovely listeners find you? If you're listening to this, I would really recommend you go and take Nick's free vitality test. It really is inspirational and you'll learn so much about yourself. Where can people do that, Nick?
Just need to go to 5 Institute, FIVE, institute.com, and you'll see the vitality test there. And then I'm not really big on social media, as you know, but 5 Institute, you can see me there. Email me, nick@5institute.com.
And you have a community
stuff on YouTube
as well, don't you? Have you got stuff on YouTube? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've got that. I've just put the Metalox year on YouTube.
Oh, well, people should definitely go and watch that. That's very interesting. Very interesting. Well, I'll give you this interview. You can put it on your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And what was the other thing I was going to say? And then you have a community as well, don't you, that people can join? It's not open though, is it? at the moment?
Well, it depends when the people are listening to this.
This is true.
This is timeless. We've just had a timeless conversation, so it may well be open. We close. Yeah, we're open and closed, not because we're trying to create a situation of lack, because that would be really cruel in a metal energy era to play the old lack game, which I know lots of marketers will start to double downing on lack. We open up at certain times just because it's very similar to your community. We like to have really good onboarding, get people into the community, so we open and close. It's called This Vital Life, and it's the essence is kind of how do we kind of love living as ourselves. So that's the idea, kind of that's the aim. You want to love living as you, then that's what we try.
Yeah, and of course what people are doing are embodying their energy types, aren't they? They're understanding.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, which again I highly recommend, because it's just really eye-opening to do your vitality test.
It's fun as well. We have a lot of fun.
Fun? You have fun? Wow.
We have fun.
To think. With you in charge, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. You're a wonderful, wonderful man. Lovely to see you as ever.
Well, thank you so much for all the work you do in this platform that you create, and wondrous message that you put out there in the world of hope, aspiration, elevation, everything you do.
Yeah, thank you. I'm in good company. I love you too. And we will see you next week with another love fest and another incredible guest on the Dharma Life podcast. Thank you.